Hi, I'm here with Che Edoga. He's on Team 2980, and I'm here to interview about his job. So what's your background and what do you major in?
So in college, I started out as a biochem major, and then I almost flunked out of college. And so I became a music major, and I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts. And then I went to grad school where I got a master's in composition with new media.
All right. And right out of college, what was the first job you got?
So let's see, during grad school, I worked at a dog kennel. I worked as a security guard at a McDonald's. I also worked as a security guard at a construction site. That was fun. And I worked, what else? Oh, I worked at a recording studio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then what's your current job?
I am a high school robotics teacher.
What?
It took me a second to remember that one.
Yeah. And then are there interesting, like what's some interesting things being done in your area of profession?
So teaching career and tech ed,
Yeah.
it's really weird because it's this really broad thing. And there's this kind of thing where it's like nobody really tells you what to do, right? So you have a steering committee, so the community comes in and the community says, hey, like, we need people who know how to do this thing, right? And so it's kind of our job to teach people to do the thing that the community is asking us to teach people how to do. The problem with teaching robotics is it's not something that people go directly out of high school into, right? It's not like someone leaves high school and they're suddenly building robots.
Yeah.
And so I don't get that as much, and it ends up being a little bit confusing for the people who are, like the community people who come to me, because they're like, well, I own a store that fixes computers. And I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. Like, I can have kids work on fixing computers if you'd like me to do that. But then it's like, well, how do I tie that into robotics, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I'm doing is getting kids ready to just be good people. So I teach a Lego robotics class, which is kind of weird. Like, I never thought that I could make a living playing with Legos. But I do that, and then the kids go from that to like FTC to FRC. And so it's one of those things where it's like, yes, this little Lego robot has all the same stuff as this really big FRC robot. It's got sensors, it's got motors, you can treat the motors like servos, you can do all these things with this thing, and you can program it, and it's great. And then it's like, okay, now that you've done it with this little thing that looks like a toy, now we're gonna do it with this big thing. And it's just that really cool dynamic jump. And then it's also like, I have an art degree. Like, I'm teaching engineering and I have an art degree. So I don't know where I was going with that, but it's kind of one of those deals where you just end up where you end up. And I think that CTE is kind of a cool place to be, because it has the funding and the backing and the latitude to do what you need to do in order to make the world the kind of place that you see it wanting it to be.
And how much do you use your majors in your job?
So my art degree definitely came into like play when I helped to make the mascot. You know, it's funny because the team doesn't really, I mean, they know that I have an art degree, but it's kind of in the back of their minds.
Yeah.
And so the design kids don't really come to me with questions. So I don't really get to use my degree per se, but one of the things that was big in my art degree was learning what you needed to learn in order to do what you want to do when you need to do it. And so, you know, I call it just-in-time learning, and it's like, okay, I need to weld something for this art sculpture that I'm making, so I need to learn how to weld, at least well enough to weld this sculpture, right? I need to design something that does this thing, and so I need to learn CAD at least well enough to get this 3D printer to make this thing that I need for this art piece. And so for me, that whole approach of just like, I need to learn how to do this specific thing in order to do what I want to do.
It's like the fundamentals more?
Not even.
Not even?
It's literally no fundamentals.
Oh. Right.
And it's literally just like, what do I need to do?
Right.
Okay, and how do I learn what I need to learn in order to do what I need to do?
The mindset?
Right now. That's the, yes, that is it.
it.
It would be that mindset of like, how do I learn what I need to learn to do what I need to do right now? And then I learn that thing, and then I've got another skill, and then the next time I run into that problem, it's like, oh, I know how to do that, and I can do the thing that I need to do.
And what does like a typical day for your job look like?
So I'm lucky in that I start late and end late. And so I get to take my time in the morning, I can take my dogs for a walk, and then I get to school and I get to play with Legos for like the whole first half of my day. And then after school, it's robotics until 6. And so I just get to like hang out with the team and do the next thing that needs to get done. And a lot of it is just being there and like, you know, opening the doors so that kids can do what they need to do, and pointing at things and saying, hey, that doesn't look right. But outside of that, that's pretty much my whole day. And then I go home and do it again the next one.
Do you have like a favorite part or maybe least favorite part about your day?
I'm not good with grading because I don't care. Like, grades aren't real, you know, and it's hard because it's like, okay, so this kid didn't do well on this assignment, but they learned all the things that they were supposed to learn. Well, okay, what difference does it really make if they did the best job at this silly assignment that's meaningless anyway, right? And then a part of it is also for me in grading, 10 years from now, no one's gonna care, right? Like 10 years from now, no one's gonna care how well a kid did in a Lego robotics class in high school. And so for me, it's more like, okay, I have to give you a grade in order to give you a grade, but I'm much more interested in like, were you nice to the people that you worked with? And like, did you learn something new when you did this thing? That's much more my interest than anything else.
And is there anything that surprised you about this field of work?
That you could make a living playing with Legos.
Oh.
If you asked me when I was a kid, like, what are you going to be when you grow up? I would have said, I'm going to be a doctor, actually, I thought I was going to be an astronaut surgeon. That was my plan. I was going to be the doctor on like a spaceship because I figured we'd be living in space by then. And well, the world has fallen short of my expectations, but the reality is I loved playing with Legos as a kid. And had you told me as a kid, you're going to grow up and you're going to play with Legos for a living, and you're going to be happy and everything's going to be great, I would have laughed in your face. If you told my parents I was going to play with Legos for a living when I grew up, my parents would have like yelled at you for encouraging me to do something silly. So, I don't know, I guess the most surprising thing is that you can find happiness anywhere and you can make a living doing pretty much anything.
And do you think if you were to go to college again, you'd major in something different?
So here's the thing. I learned how to learn when I became a teacher. And so I was actually taking classes to get my teaching credential, and I was doing as badly in those classes as I did in my classes in college. And I was worried that I was going to lose my job. And I started teaching a program called Avid. And so I was taking this class, and I was not doing well, and I started doing all of the things that I was telling the kids to do in my Avid class. It's a study skills program. And like, I started being successful. And so here's what's hard. When I was in college and I was a biochem major, I had a professor who said to me, they're like, if you could get through college and med school, you'd be a great doctor. And I was like, wow, that's awesome of you to say. And the problem is that big if you could get through, right?
Yeah.
And there's a part of me now that's like, if I like knew what I know now, I could totally go and get through an engineering program and be an engineer somewhere. Or I could totally go, like I feel like at this point, I could do whatever it is that I wanted to do at whatever point in my life that I wanted to do it, knowing what I know now. But the reality is, I'm pretty happy where I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the most successful person in my family, but I am pretty happy doing what I'm doing. And I kind of feel like it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. Like, I could probably be happy doing anything.
Yeah. All right. And do you have any, like, from college, do you have a memory you liked? Like, what was your favorite part about college?
So college was hard because I wasn't a good student. Grad school was amazing because I was doing what I loved.
Yeah.
And I was in a really accepting environment for what I was doing. So, like, as a person who likes to create, being in a graduate school where you're rewarded for creating and where people are looking for the best in what you do, right? So, like, I would do a piece of art, and you're always most critical of yourself, right? So I'd be really critical of my own work. And then people will be like, oh my gosh, like this, through looking at this piece of work that you've done, I can feel like I know a little bit more about who you are or what it is that you see in the world. And it was such an amazingly accepting environment. That was one of the best times in my life. And it's funny because, like, I had the opportunity to stay, but I knew that I had to leave because if I didn't, then I never would.
And could you name any, like, traits you think would be helpful for someone going into your field?
Trades or traits?
Traits or, like, experiences or something.
So two things. One is to always be willing to learn. And the other is to just recognize that it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. And like 10 years from now, everything is going to be the way it's going to be. And you can just get through life and have a good time and make people smile, and that's all that matters.
And is there any, like, final parting advice you'd have for someone exploring a STEM career? Or even just any career?
No, I think the only thing is to just realize that it doesn't matter. It's for you. Like, whatever it is that you want to do, no matter what labels people have slapped on you or anything like that, if you find pleasure in doing something, then just do it and enjoy yourself, right? Like, if you're not hurting anybody else, then go have the best time doing whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and whatever that happens to be, if it makes you happy, then it makes me happy that you're doing it.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time.